Hello, I am Ursula. I make comics and I design characters, and today I am designing a new character for a new comic that Bones and I are putting out. The comic is called Honeywalls. Now, Honeywalls originally was a novel. It's a novel that Bones wrote. He's the writer on our channel. And it is a very cute, cozy story. It's a fantasy story, though it's set in like a contemporary modern setting. The magic in it has to do with like stories and fantasy and talking stuffed animals. It's just the coziest thing you'll read. It's so cute. And our main character, Ro-Garou, is the character I'm designing today. He is our main character, and he doesn't believe in magic. That's not entirely true. He doesn't approve of magic. So just to make it clear, magic isn't common in this world. In fact, I think it's like exclusive to Ro and his family. So he's aware that magic is a thing, and he does not approve of it. He doesn't approve of any fantasy. He doesn't even like reading fantasy novels. He is like the most boring man in the world, and he likes it that way. His girlfriend, who I will do a video designing later, as she is a main character. His girlfriend, Chrysocolla, Chris, she is a psychic. Her and her mother are both psychics. They are very spiritual people. They do seances and psychic readings, tarot cards, all that stuff. And Ro just rolls his eyes and doesn't want to be a part of their nonsense, despite the fact that he may have grown up talking to stuffed animals who then talked back. He's a bit of a hypocrite that way. Now, before I get into more about Ro's design here, I just want to encourage you to go check out the original novelization of Honeywalls. I'll put a link down below. We have it in print. We have it as ebooks. There's a wonderful audiobook that was narrated by Jonathan Coventry. Highly recommend. It's a really great recording. So if you're interested in what this comic will be and you want to try out the novel first, go check it out. The original book has illustrations from Alex Dingley, who's a wonderful artist. He did an amazing job with the cover, and each chapter has a little illustration inside it. It's so pretty, and Bones did such an amazing work on the story. Highly recommend. And what we're doing with this project is we're taking that novel and we're turning it into a comic. Anyone who's followed along with our work knows that we already have a similar project called The Books of Avo that Bones originally wrote as a novel, and we have since been turning it into a comic just to serve as an easy reader, I guess. It's a little easier for people to follow with the comic visuals. And we started this project because we wanted to share these books with more people. We have already a bit of an audience for our comics, and it just extends to a wider audience. So that is what we are doing with Honeywalls. It's getting the Avo treatment, where it will have some sections of like prose, where we include bits from the novel, but all of the dialogue will be turned into like comic format. There'll be comic visuals. I'm really excited to work on this because Honeywalls is such a good story. So yeah, check it out down below if you want to look at the book before the comic comes out. So let's get into Ro's design. My initial design, it was a good start. So we have some idea already of what Ro looks like. He is a boring man. He's very serious. He's not very smiley. Like, he's a nice guy, but he's not very smiley. He's very serious, but he's also very cozy. He is like always wearing sweaters. Part of it is because he is trans. He has not done his top surgery yet, so he does layer up in sweaters to cover himself and feel alleviated from gender dysphoria. And he's just a cozy lad. Ro is also an illustrator. He does freelance work doing illustration for people, and he comes from a very like bookish family. In fact, his mother is a writer who is like a famous children's book writer. So because of like his work, his personality, his family background, I just wanted to give him a very like bookish, cozy, nerdy appearance. He's like, what's the opposite of like dark academia? What's like cozy academia? That's him. That's the vibe I wanted. Like, he's not schleppy. He's put together, but in like a a cottagecore, but not cottagecore because he's too serious for cottagecore, you know? That's why it's more like academia. But anyways, that's the vibe I was going for. I wanted him to look a little shaggy with his hair. Again, I briefly mentioned it, but we did originally have some designs for him before, because when the book came out, I was doing a lot of illustrations, mostly just because when I read Bones' books, I tend to draw the characters from them because I'm a big fan, and also just to do some advertising for the book. So I already had an idea of what I wanted him to look like, but I really wanted to refine it. So I played around with some different hairstyles. I knew already I wanted like the sweaters. I wanted him to be like more of a plump character. It is mentioned in the book that he's on the larger side. He's a plump boy, which we love. And he wears glasses. He wears his sweaters. He has a beard that's mentioned in the story. So I had a very good sense of like what I want this character to look like, but I was playing around a lot with like the hair and the shapes and getting the personality through. So I played around a lot with that. Through the story, he is going to get some different outfits, so I tried drawing a few different outfits, but I ended up settling on my original idea, where he's wearing like a sweater over a collared shirt, and some slacks, just because he's a serious little man, you know? And then, as I kept going, my original idea, it's a good start, but it didn't capture him quite well. He looks a little too mean in that first design. And one of the things I wanted to do was, for one, I wanted to make him a little bit fatter, honestly. I made him a little too skinny in that first design. So I wanted to plump him up. And then I wanted to bring some softness into his design, like more rounded shapes. For shape language, I kept him pretty square. There's some squares, there's some triangles that are kind of like feeding off of that square idea. I didn't want him like pointy. He's not like a pointy, cunning, sharp character. He's very soft, and I wanted to use a lot of like squared off shapes. I guess like rounded squares? Squircles? Is that what they're called? Square circles? I wanted a lot of that just to show like his softness, his roundness, but he's still this very sturdy shape. I think that just fits his no-nonsense personality. I think it makes him seem very solid. He's a bit of a stubborn character too. I felt it like fed into that, and the roundness just keeps him approachable, soft, kind, like I know he is. So I was a lot happier the second go round with his body shape. I was happier with his face. I rounded up a lot of the shapes, like his nose, his chin. When I was designing the hairstyle, it took me a little while to figure out what hairstyle I wanted, because I was really bouncing between, do I want him to have like a really short haircut? Like he's very, trimmed up, serious, like keeping it profesh. But it doesn't quite work. He's a little more, I can't think of the right word, but he's a little more unkempt than that. He's not sleek. So I eventually settled on hair that was like a little bit more grown out. I think it just adds to that kind of like, I don't know, professorly look, if that makes sense. There's just something softer, a little more rustic about it. And I made sure to keep those really round shapes, but still keep the overall silhouette kind of squared off. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. The other aspect of his hair, so through Honeywalls, there is a theme of roses, like the flower and flowers. Throughout the story, there's lots of like botanical stuff. So I wanted his hair to also feel like the shape of a rose. So I'm very happy that adding the roundness, growing out his hair a little bit, it gives that rose feel. And it helps that he's also a redhead. He has like, him and his sister both have like burgundy hair. So I was very happy with how that turned out. Now, like I said, there's going to be a few different outfits for him. I'm going to have a lot of fun designing those as the comic goes on, because I like designing new clothes for my characters. It's so fun and cute. But I just decided, like, we'll keep it simple for now, but I added the little Argyle pattern on the sweater. Again, Ro wouldn't put on a sweater that had like too many patterns that stand out. He wants to blend in, he wants to be boring, but some Argyle is classy, it's nice, and I think it fits that like square motif as well. And then on to colors. I started off with giving him some like browner hair, but I changed it down to the burgundy. And to contrast that, I used a nice spring green for his sweater. I think it'll probably get dulled down a little bit for him. I don't know if he'd wear something that bright, but I personally have a habit of dulling down all of my colors, and I'm trying to push myself to make them more vibrant from the get-go. And also, this comic is going to be very bright and sweet and nice. So I think his sweater being a little brighter will just fit the aesthetic of the comic, even if it doesn't fit him entirely. And then for his slacks, I went with a brown that I pulled from the red of his hair. And again, these colors, they do help with that kind of like rose flower botanical vibe where, you know, it kind of looks like a little rose with some leaves and a stem. Overall, I'm pretty happy with his colors. I think it's like a really good start. Looking at it again now, actually, on the playback, I think I want to bring a little bit more of the red, the kind of bright red from his hair into his design more. I did pull the browns from that red, so they do harmonize well with it. But I think I need a little bit more. I've also got the green in his eyes that the sweater really pulls from. So I'd like to bring some more of that red and green throughout the design to make sure that it's nice and balanced. I just have to make it subtle so that it suits Ro. Again, he wouldn't wear bright colors, flashy accessories. He's a boring man. But I do need to bring those colors through so that his design is more balanced. And is there anything else I would change looking at it now? I think I would just round out some of the more triangular shapes, like the bottom of his dress shirt that's poking out from his sweater, and adding some more details onto his pants and shoes. I think just like rounding things off by keeping them square and adding some more details, balancing out the colors. I think that's all I would change for the moment. And that's Ro. That's our Ro-Garo. He's my boy. He's my boring boy. However, despite being the most boring man in the world, Ro does have a sweet tooth, and I find that very endearing. He is constantly putting like 20 sugars in his tea, and his girlfriend is mad at him for doing that. But like, he's like me for real, you know? I also have a sweet tooth. So there you go, that's my design. I think it'll get some cleanups before it pops off in the final comic, but I have many more characters I need to design before I can start. So stick around for more videos where I design more Honeywell's characters, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. You can also join our Discord if you're interested in talking comics, meeting other artists and writers. There should be a link down below, and I'll see you around. Goodbye!